Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and feeling great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and weekend. Here to bring you the latest on a few things in this morning's video. The first thing we will talk about is Hurricane Ernesto. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on Ernesto. Ernesto is pretty much on its last few days, but it did make a technical landfall, a direct landfall into Bermuda about an hour ago. Remember, we talked about over the last few days how uncommon that is just because Bermuda is so small out here in the North Atlantic, but it did make a landfall, so it's pretty wild to think about. Thankfully, this did not make landfall, or really Ernesto just flat out didn't materialize in one of these higher end scenarios like a Category 3 hurricane like it was forecast to intensify to at one point. The highest it got was 100 miles per hour, and I would argue that this really did not look like a 100-mile-per-hour hurricane. It looked like a very sloppy hurricane, even at its strongest. But, of course, it was producing those winds, so it got the Category 2 rating. But thankfully, Ernesto did not take advantage of the atmosphere out there in the Southwest Atlantic. We were talking about that with the days leading up, how this had a high ceiling. And I believed the high ceiling. I was completely wrong. So we're thankful for that. Bermuda seeing impacts this morning. Hopefully it's not that bad. You guys let me know what you're seeing out there. But this is going to nip Newfoundland also. So we'll spend a little bit of time on Newfoundland. Don't want to just leave our folks up here in Canada hanging. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But a large portion of this video is actually going to be in discussing what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48 today, as there is a lot of areas throughout the country that has a risk of strong to severe storms, as there's just multiple features out here in the weather pattern that's going to promote an atmosphere that supports strong to severe storms. So we'll talk about that. I think tomorrow will be another day just like today will be. So we'll speak on all that. And then at the very end of the video, we will have a special segment talking about the cooler, drier air that will filter in behind all these severe weather chances over the next couple of days as a frontal boundary sweeps across the entire eastern U.S., bringing a little touch of fall. And I know I'm very excited about this. And for some folks in the eastern U.S., this could be an all-week-long air mass next week. So stay tuned for that if you're a fall weather fan. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put those in the comments below. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. I'm feeling good. I don't know about y'all. I'm getting this video out a little bit earlier than I normally do. Got a jam-packed day of soccer. We had a great night of soccer practice last night. For you folks who haven't been tuning in much, I'm a volunteer soccer coach, and our soccer practices kept getting canceled. And then finally we got to get it in last night. And then we got to turn around and have our first game today. So it was great meeting the kids. I love interacting with the kids and hanging out with the kids. So it was a really great night, but very sore. But let's get going here. I'm jabbering my jaw a little bit too much. But here's Ernesto right here. I mean, honestly, this storm complex over Arkansas, Oklahoma, etc. looks more impressive than Ernesto does right now. And this thing really just kept dealing with a lot of dry air. It never could fully mix out completely its dry air. Therefore, Ernesto's structure never could form. That was kind of the final stage to introduce the possibility for some sort of moderate to rapid intensification, and it never did that. It never was able to get its act together, and now it's getting pretty north out here in the North Atlantic. Once it gets probably another several hundred miles, it'll start to enter more so cooler sea surface temperatures. And then I think by the time it gets even closer to Newfoundland, it will weaken. Now, there's an opportunity for this to actually strengthen a little bit as it kind of, I would say, interacts with a trough that's going to really help boost, kind of boot this out. And it's going to kind of make its way through here. There'll be kind of some sort of interaction, and that'll actually help boost this system millibar wise, and actually will probably increase the winds maybe. And I'll talk about that here in a second. But all in all, this will be a very quick blow for southeast Newfoundland, and we're hoping the impacts are not that bad. But you guys in Bermuda, let me know what you folks are experiencing this morning. I would love to know, and I hope you all are definitely faring well. We're praying for you folks. Now, out here in the rest of the Atlantic, there's a lot of chatter. Is there anything else behind Ernesto? I'm wondering the same thing. Of course, I've been watching it like a hawk because I'm a weather nerd. But we got tropical moisture, tropical waves, but what's happening is they are exiting. They're kind of moving off North Africa just a little bit too far north, so they're kind of moving out way up out here. And when they move off North Africa too far north, they typically do not make it. Too far north in latitude here, they just don't make it. They get mixed in with a lot of dry air, a little bit cooler sea surface temperatures. So that's what's been going on. I mean, we've had the wave train going. They're just not surviving out here in the eastern Atlantic at all. Really, for us to get anything that we need to worry about, you need these low rider waves that kind of come down here, and that's when they have a better shot to survive. All indications point that that is going to change, and kind of a scenario like that will be more so promoted as we get a little bit later into August. So we'll speak more on that when we're starting to see more. Of course, I'm going to continue to keep you guys updated about what's to come out here in the tropics. But that's an update about what's going on out here. Now let's continue to move forward here. I want to show you guys this. National Hurricane Center posted this a little while ago around 5 a.m. And here it is. Ernesto made landfall on Bermuda at 4:30 a.m. Strong winds, dangerous storm surge, life-threatening flooding expected to continue on Bermuda today. But I mean, there's Bermuda right here, guys. It made the actual center of circulation went right over Bermuda. This thing is like what I would call a half a cane, meaning most of its actions only positioned on one portion of the storm. And really, this is already taken on that structure that we're expecting it to pretty much stick with for the life of the rest of this hurricane. This is exactly probably what it's going to look like. I would say this is exactly what it's going to look like when it starts to impact Newfoundland and surrounding areas. Most of the action is going to be on the northeast side of the cane, and then kind of the back end of this is just dealing with a lot of dry air. So it almost looks like I said, like a half a cane right now, because I mean, just half of it's really void of any high-end precipitation. That doesn't mean you're not going to get strong gusty winds in the backside of this hurricane. It just precipitation-wise, not as much, but it made a landfall in Bermuda. It's pretty impressive. But I hope you guys, more importantly, are okay out here in Bermuda. Just Bermuda. Let me know what you're seeing out here, what you're experiencing. I would love to know. But 85-mile-per-hour hurricane, 972 millibar hurricane, moving northeast at 9 miles per hour. So that's the latest 5 a.m. update. And then if we're looking at the cone, expected to, by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, still be an 85-mile-per-hour hurricane. And then check this out. It actually strengthens to a 90-mile-per-hour Category 1 hurricane. So, like I said, with this trough digging down, there could be some interaction, some strengthening, re-strengthening with Ernesto. So we'll watch for that. I really think this will fully start to lose its tropical characteristics as it gets, I think it kind of already is in the process of doing so. Out here, way up here in the North Atlantic, when it gets a little bit closer to like Cape Breton Island and then Newfoundland. And then they're saying the center of the storm, even though the center of the storm could be over here, it could be over here on either side of the cone. That's why the cone is still kind of wide in this area. It basically is pretty much telling us that the center of the storm could go right here, or it could go over here, or it could go right down the middle like it's saying. So we'll continue to watch for that, but expected to be a 75, 70 mile per hour post-tropical cyclone. Remember, when these things start to lose their tropical characteristics, yeah, the wind speeds typically drop, but the wind field actually expands. So the chances to see those peak intensity winds actually, broaden and expands away from the center. So, with a true tropical core, tropical cyclone, hurricane, typically you got to get really inside that eye wall. With a kind of extratropical, post-tropical cyclone, the wind field really expands outward, and you can definitely get high winds well away from the center. And I think that will be the case. The good news is this is going to move in Monday p.m., and by the time you're waking up Monday morning, I think this thing's already, Tuesday morning, this thing's already clearing out for Newfoundland. Now, we're going to go over some quick global model guidance here. And this is the GFS. Here it comes from overnight. And it's a glancing blow. For example, this is like the middle of the night, this coming Monday night. The center of low pressure right off the coastline, Newfoundland, the Avalon Peninsula here. St. John's getting impacts, and anybody else out here in southeast Newfoundland getting some hefty impacts for about a several hour period. And then this impacts you guys. And by the time we're waking up Tuesday morning, I mean, this thing is racing off to the north-northeast. So, or more so, I would say actually the east-northeast at this point, as it's rounding around kind of the top of a ridge in the North Atlantic here. But you look at the European from overnight. Here it comes. And let's make sure this is the, yeah, this is the overnight Euro model. Here it comes. It's well, I would say it's about the same as the GFS, but the timing is almost spot on with the GFS. They pretty much agree with one another. It's saying the center of this storm is going to be right off the coastline of the Avalon Peninsula, southeast Newfoundland, bringing impacts Monday night into Tuesday morning, and then it's racing off into the North Atlantic. Now, we look at some global models here, and we're really just going to look at the HFA model. Here it comes. Watch how this millibar drops. Watch how it drops right into here. I mean, it starts to bog down to a sub 970 millibar low. We're getting into Monday morning. I mean, I don't believe this, but it does want to drop this all the way to a 957 millibar low hurricane sometime Monday, and then you see Newfoundland creeping up on your screen. I mean, and as early as, I would say, Monday afternoon, evening, the winds are going to pick up in southeast Newfoundland. There's that banding feature right here hitting southeastern sections of Newfoundland, the Avalon Peninsula, and anybody that lives out here in this peninsula area. Those orange, yellows, reds you see here, these are heavy rain bands, gusty winds associated with these rain bands, and this will continue. But look, I mean, here it is. All right, this is like Monday evening. This is like in the middle of the night, Monday night into Tuesday morning, and then this is Tuesday morning. This thing's racing off. It's just a quick blow, but of course, even though it's a quick blow, I mean, it's going to pack a good punch and then head on out. So hope you guys are prepared for that. And if you're looking at wind speeds from the HFA model, here it comes. Remember, they go by kilometers per hour up here in Newfoundland and Atlantic Canada. So here it comes. This is kilometers. This is wind gust, kilometers per hour, and wind gusts. So this isn't kind of like persistent wind speeds. This is wind gusts. So here it comes. And, you know, right out here in the southeastern portion, the far southeastern point of Newfoundland, basically the Avalon Peninsula, saying, you know, right in the middle of the night, Monday night, 113 kilometer per hour wind gusts as possible. And I think in general, if you live out here in southeastern sections, the Avalon Peninsula of Newfoundland, anywhere from, in my opinion, 50 to 120 kilometer per hour wind gusts are possible. Of course, you're going to get consistent breezes, whatever that may be, but you're going to get some stronger wind gusts. And I always want to look at miles per hour because my brain does not work fast enough to convert that in my head. And I appreciate my friends here in Canada, you know, putting the conversion things down there in the comments. It means a lot. But even if I like mastered the conversions and all of that right here in front of me for about 2 hours before starting this video, I would still manage to just forget it all when I get into the video. So same thing with like pronouncing names of towns and stuff like that. But you know, as far as like in miles per hour, which I'm always interested to look at, you could get some hurricane force wind gusts like 74 mile per hour or higher winds out in like the southeastern portions of the Avalon Peninsula, southeastern Newfoundland. So definitely tropical storm force wind gusts to even hurricane force wind gusts at times. But like I said, glancing blow hits you guys and heads on out. So definitely hoping for the best for you folks out there. And let's get this in motion in Canada as we move over the next couple of days. But let's talk about what's going on weather-wise across the entire lower 48 today. If we can get this in motion. All right, there we go. All right, so I got, and I kind of regret pulling it up because there's way too much feedback going on here. A lot of H's, a lot of L's, a lot of dashes of lines. But in general, I want you to really just focus on this frontal boundary right into here with an associated low pressure here, which is our upper trough that's going to dig down. So you see this front right here? This is going to bring glory for our folks here in the eastern U.S. and the southeastern and northeastern U.S. This is going to bring a nice air mass. It's right here right now for our Saturday morning, but it's going to be on the way and race towards us at a pretty quick clip over the next couple days. But as far as rainfall, and things of that nature here. We have a lot of rain that's surging through New York State. We got some rain showers just moving through the mid-Atlantic. We got a complex of energy here in eastern Oklahoma, areas of Arkansas. We got some storms in southeastern Kansas. We got some weather here in western sections of Tennessee, waking up to a pretty soggy start in northern lower Michigan. Some rain up here in Quebec, Ontario. We got some energy surging through eastern sections of Montana. A little bit of shower activity up here in the Dakotas. And you see this energy right off the coastline of the Pacific Northwest. This is actually going to materialize into some strong to severe storms in areas of western Oregon and Washington State today. We're actually going to talk about that. That's not a very common setup. Very stormy, even higher end severe weather risk for like Utah today too, which is going to be quite interesting to see how it plays out. But I'm actually going to zoom into Utah and Washington and Oregon State. And Oregon, the state of Oregon. I don't know why I said Oregon State like we're talking about like the Beavers or something like football. I'm just ready for football, guys. If you guys know, I'm a big football person. But Washington and Oregon out here could definitely have some severe weather today. We'll talk more on that here in a second. But watches, warnings, and advisories. Any other just awfully hot day for the southern plains, the south central U.S., the Mississippi Delta region, just same states, rinse and repeat. Oklahoma, northeastern sections of Texas, Arkansas, northern Louisiana, all of Louisiana, Mississippi, and areas of the western deep south. Just another hot summer, late summer day. Excessive heat warnings in the purple, heat advisories in the orange, red flag warnings out here in areas of the western U.S. Now we got flood watches in the green. I am concerned about these red flag warnings because we are going to get some storms up here in this area of Oregon today, potentially, especially I would say more so in western Oregon. So the last thing we need is any dry thunderstorms, which means, it's quite literally what it sounds like. Just some storms that really don't produce any precipitation, just bolts of lightning that can start some wildfires out here. It's getting very dry. Anytime you get red flag warnings, it's starting to get pretty dry. So let's hope that any storms we get out here produce rainfall. So excessive rainfall outlook. The two areas, of course, to watch out for, in my opinion, is always going to be in the yellow to moderate to high risk. So we got two areas to watch here that are in that yellow. That means we have a slight risk. That means we have a 15% risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles in a given location. So could get a lot of rain in these areas today. Now, the Storm Prediction Center update. Now, we could get some tweaks from this here in the next couple hours and the next update from these guys. But for now, we got a lot of areas, right? The two that really stick out to me that you don't see as much is in Washington and Oregon. Just east of Portland, Eugene, and south of Seattle. A legit risk of some nasty storms today. You don't typically see a slight risk in this area. You can see a marginal risk is a little bit more common, but pretty wild. And then right here in the heart of Utah, from Salt Lake City all the way to the Arizona-Utah border, we have a level 2 out of 5 risk here. And we got a couple marginal risk out here in the plains, and then we got a large marginal risk stretching from, Buffalo, New York, all the way down here to like Montgomery, Alabama. And then we got a little bit more of an elevated risk of severe weather across the Ohio Valley down to the Mid-South and kind of the western side of the Appalachian Mountains. Southern Ohio, extreme western West Virginia, right through the heart of Kentucky into northern areas of Tennessee. Level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. The tornado threat today, not very high, but folks, we do have a 2% risk here in areas of Ohio and Kentucky in the green. And then the wind threat, if you live in that yellow, that's where you have a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in any given location. And then the hail threat today, not so much in Utah, but that area in the Pacific Northwest, and then the area in the Ohio Valley down to the Mid-South, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So let's go and talk about the Southeast first. Stormy day expected for some folks. Start off this morning, we got some leftover energy out here. But as we move into this afternoon, I'd watch out for some storms in the southern tip of Florida, some storms in the panhandle of Florida, southern Mississippi, Alabama. Look at those storms rumbling through. Atlanta, if you're going to Six Flags or something in Atlanta this afternoon, this evening, you might get some storms. Same thing up here in Carowinds and Charlotte, could get some storms that move through later this evening. And I would say the area of most concern is up here on the western side of the Apps. Well, we get to get some big storms up here, and then everything as we get into the overnight hours into tomorrow morning obviously loses some steam. But just a closer look here in the Apps region, west and east of it. We continue to move forward, getting about midday. This is actually 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Some big storms up here in northern Kentucky, southern Ohio. Some storms firing here. These storms will drift through eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee. We got some storms, like I said, up here, down here in north areas of Georgia, northern Georgia, western North Carolina, even getting some pop-ups. Hendersonville, Asheville, and some storms around Charlottesville, northern VA. We got some storms still ongoing in eastern Kentucky. Storms could become a little bit more widespread this evening, maybe in eastern Tennessee. They're just scattered about everywhere. We got this little area of energy right here in northern South Carolina, Piedmont, North Carolina. And all these will just kind of race off to, I would say, the east-southeast pretty quickly. And then we're going to have another big day of storms a little bit further, I would say, to the east. So like pretty much like to the southeast. So we'll watch for that. Could be a big day of severe weather across the southeast, including my neck of the woods. So we'll speak on that in the next video. But as far as that updraft Felicity swath, it really likes eastern Kentucky, southern Ohio, eastern Tennessee. Even a little spinning updrafts here north of Columbia between Charlotte and Columbia. So we could have some rotation with some of these storms. So we'll watch for this. A little bit of a jet streak running through this area, promoting an atmosphere, certainly for some just rotation with some of these storms. Not a tornado outbreak by any means, but we look at the potential wind gust swath here, and you can definitely tell where these are clustering up. And the more highlighted colors here indicating those 30 to 40, maybe 50 mile per hour wind gusts are kind of clustering where it's showing those storms. So certainly you got a more elevated risk right here into this area of West Virginia, southern Ohio, Kentucky. And then you got this little area right here in the Carolina state line. And then we got some areas right down here in Georgia we need to watch out for too. So definitely whoever gets hit by some storms today and you get under like a severe thunderstorm warning or a special weather statement, take it serious. It could definitely pack a punch today. The atmosphere is primed for it. So up here in the northeast, a lot of energy is just going to swirl through. Of course, there's your low right here, your kind of upper low that's going to really amplify into just a full-fledged trough. And, I mean, we get into about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. Look at all this storm activity in lower Michigan. Look at these storms rumbling through Ontario, southern Ontario. You guys are going to have a stormy afternoon. Storms up here, you know, Toronto, storms down here to Buffalo, Rochester. Look at these storms surging through PA. We got a line of storms getting together down here near DC, Baltimore, getting into the Delmarva area. Could make it all the way to New Jersey. And then this energy starts to lose some steam as we're waking up tomorrow morning. But I mean, we could be waking up to some pretty heavy rain in like New York City tomorrow. Look at all this rain right on top of New York City for your Sunday morning. So that's something to watch out for. But a closer look, kind of a more of a highlight area that's going to see that higher severe weather threat. And look at all these storms. I mean, you got multiple clusters of storms that could develop. I mean, they're going to be everywhere. Just know if you live in the state of PA, surrounding states, definitely a good shot at widespread strong storms today. A severe weather outbreak, absolutely not. But, you know, Rochester getting hit by some nasty storms up here down to the Finger Lakes region sometime around 6 to 8 p.m. Some storms down here in the D.C. area down to the Delmarva, and all this will continue. And this could certainly, you know, produce some damaging winds. Tornado threat up here, maybe not as high end, but you can't be ruled out, especially the further, I would say, west and southwest you get. But, you know, some of these could produce some gusty winds, 30 to 40 mile per hour winds, guys. And, you know, I'd watch out for a little bit of excessive rainfall if you live. I hate when it glitches like this, guys. Let's just look at the blend of all models. You know, it really wants to highlight areas of central and eastern PA, even this area down here in the mid-Atlantic. Well, this pretty much the entire area is the mid-Atlantic. But down here in the D.C., Baltimore, kind of capital city region, it definitely likes the idea of an inch and a quarter of rain. So definitely be aware of any flash flooding today. The south central U.S. will continue to watch this energy sort of dissipate this morning throughout Arkansas, that we're getting those storms in right now. Just your average pulse storms down here in southern sections of Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. Same thing, you might get some pulse storms here in like northern Texas, maybe down here along the coastal regions of Texas. Just not a whole lot of action today in this area. It's just going to be very hot, very miserable because of the hot air, and summer continues to rage on. August is typically a pretty nasty month from what I've noticed, just talking about the weather over the last however many years I've been doing it. I've always noticed that August tends to hit you guys out here in the southern plains a little bit harder than maybe us in the southeast. I tell you, once upon a time, and people still say it, when I just casually talk weather with people, they say, yeah, August is the hottest month here in South Carolina. It has been, and it can be, but I will tell you, and this is going to be another August that comes and goes where it's not. August here in the southeast has not been that bad lately. It's just been your average summer type month. It seems like August for us here in the southeast has been your maybe your second to third hottest month of the year. It seems like June and July have been hotter than August. So I don't know, just a little tidbit there. I don't know, maybe you folks can chime in the southeast. It definitely doesn't seem like August takes the cake as the hottest summer month here in the southeast anymore. But the south central, or folks in the south central U.S. might disagree with that, and I wouldn't blame you, as air temperatures, not the heat index, is going to get well into the hundreds today. Some areas might hit 110 in northern Texas, southwestern Oklahoma. And then if you look at the heat index, folks, it's just awful. I mean, there's already like almost an 85-degree heat index this morning for the sun even has came up in areas of Oklahoma. But the heat index, a little bit more of a dry heat where you do have those actual air temperatures getting close to 110. Not a dry heat in eastern Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Heat indices will get almost to 110 in certain areas. So take the precautions needed. Up here in the north central U.S., we'll continue to get this spinning cyclone that's going to amplify and bring us that nice, amazing air mass across the eastern U.S. that we'll talk about here at the very end of this video. But widespread showers and storms across lower Michigan today. If you got anything planned, it's going to be a stormy day, just on and off. Could get some storms up here in the UP of Michigan too, all the way. Some storms could refire like in around the Green Bay area of Wisconsin. We're going to get a stormy day down here in Ohio too. The further southeast, just east you get, the more that these storms are going to have more of a severe element to them. Up here in like the Great Lakes region, cool air aloft will promote an atmosphere that's probably going to support some small hail with these storms. But as far as an all-out crazy strong to severe storm, I would say it's lower up here in lower Michigan and the Great Lakes region. But you're just going to have a lot of downpours, a lot of storm action, just, crazy all-out severe weather or severe storm. I doubt it. I doubt it. You're just lacking thermodynamics up here. But yeah, after today, I think things try to calm down as we get into our Sunday in this area. But the western U.S., interesting day. We'll take a broad look at everything first. First thing you'll notice is a lot of storm action over areas of Utah, even northern Arizona. This is going to be a big jet streak that rolls right over this area, and the timing of this goes right over, with the prime heating of the day, goes right over Utah. These storms will produce some damaging winds and maybe a risk of some hail, but I would say damaging winds is by far the biggest threat with these. Really anybody in Utah today. And then we'll have this area of storms that gets going across all of the pretty much western half of Oregon, and then it races northward all the way into the Seattle area and pretty much impacts everybody in western Washington also. Now, a closer look at these areas. Here's Utah. Look at these storms just exploding over this area. For example, this is around, this is early as like 11 a.m. here in the next several hours and until like lunchtime. And then we're starting to get into like 1 to 2 p.m. Look at all these storms. Salt Lake City. Everybody. Pretty much everybody in Utah, especially the central areas of Utah outside the mountainous region, which will, have some drier, stable air with the higher elevations. But, man, look at all that storm action over Utah today. Definitely a wild day of weather expected. So don't let this catch you by surprise. I'm sure I do not have many viewers at all from Utah, but I never want to leave anybody hanging out here. And then we look at our friends here in the Pacific Northwest. It's going to take until probably later in the afternoon to get these going, but as soon as they do, look at these storms racing through the entire western half of the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon. They continue to move through and then calm down as we get into tomorrow. So a wild day of weather for some states out west for sure. Temperatures, nice, stormy. Well, it doesn't make sense. Nice, stormy, but temperature-wise, not that bad at all. 60s, 70s up here in the Great Lakes region with some storms around depending on where you live. 60s and 70s, some low 80s up here in the Northeast, 80s and 90s in the Southeast, brutally hot in the Southern Plains like we talked about. A nice air mass depending on where you live in the northern portion of the country. The further east you work, the more drier fall-like the air mass is. The further west you go in the high plains, 80s and 90s, and pretty much warm, I would say just about everywhere out west. Just no one is like super hot at all, but it's warm. It's just a nice late summer day temperature-wise. Now, for my friends here in the eastern U.S., even areas of central U.S., this is August 22nd through the 26th, the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Now, this air mass is going to move in before these dates. But, I mean, even through the 22nd through the 26th, I mean, below average temperatures are forecast for many states in the eastern U.S. and some states in the western U.S. too. So, you know, if you're a fall weather fan, you love seeing this. Now, what is causing this cool down? Well, there is a big trough of low pressure up here in the Great Lakes region right now. And this thing is spinning around, just creating a lot of shower and storm risk across the eastern U.S. and areas of the Great Lakes. Continues to spin. Now, this is going to modify and then amplify across this region right here. So we get this back off your screen. We keep this going. And check out how this really digs down, just turns into a full-fledged upper trough, and then brings a very comfortable, cool, dry air mass with it. Of course, you love seeing the blues, right? Blue equals lower pressure. The orange, warmer colors on your screen enters means high pressure and just typically associated with warmer than average temperatures. So this is going to hang out over the eastern U.S. through most of the week. I mean, even when it disappears as we're getting to Thursday, you still are getting a nice return flow into areas of the eastern U.S. And then, of course, we will lose that air mass eventually. They never last too long, unfortunately, even in the winter, as we get later into August. Now, all that blue, I mean, people are like, Mitch, just tell us what the temperatures are going to be. Well, just hold tight. I got you. We're going to look at dew points next. Remember, we talked about this in yesterday morning's video. Dew points in the 70s tell us it's a pretty humid air mass. 60s, it's still humid. It's not very dry. It's just kind of in the middle. When you get dew points in the 50s or lower, that's when you can walk outside and say, okay, I don't really feel any humidity out here, whether it's 100 degrees, whether it's 50 degrees. I'm not feeling much humidity out here. So watch what happens. Of course, you know, this afternoon, this evening, you got dew points widespread in the 60s, just about everywhere, low 70s across the eastern U.S. I mean, it's late summer, very humid air mass. Now, watch how you start to see these greens come up on your screen. And as we are getting into, and you actually can see the boundary right into here, kind of the first initial push with this cold front is like right into here. And you can see how there's a cutoff between dew points in the 70s here, and then dew points kind of in the 60s right into here, even some 50s. So there's your first initial push of dry air. And then it just continues to amplify as the trough sort of strengthens over the area. And by the time we're getting to Tuesday morning, folks, we're waking up to dew points into the 50s as far south as the panhandle of Florida potentially. Look at this dry, just beautiful fall-like air mass across the Ohio Valley, the Northeast, dew points in the 40s and 50s. I mean, all the way down here to the Southeast. This is something you can typically see the first several days of September, but we're getting it in like mid to late August. And then we're starting to get into like Wednesday morning. Look at these dew points, guys. This is a beautiful air mass for this time of the year. I cannot reiterate that enough. You don't see such a nice air mass typically in August. It lasts this long too. I mean, we get into Wednesday, we get into Thursday, you still got some dry air hanging out around. You get into Friday, it's lingering, and then we get into Saturday, still around in certain areas, and then, you know, we get into next, not this coming week, but next week, then, you know, the humidity builds back in like, you know, it's pretty much expected to do so. But as far as temperatures, guys, it's tough to know what individual area you know, is going to get what as far as temperatures. So, you know, we can just kind of look at the GFS and sort of try to figure it out. But, you know, GFS isn't an exact forecast, but, you know, we get into Monday morning, there's those 50s starting to get widespread across the Ohio Valley and the Midwest. And then we get into Tuesday morning, starting to get some lows as far south as the deep south into the 60s. Look at these 50s, probably even some upper 40s, probably some 40s in the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, no doubt about it. And then we get into like Wednesday morning. Look at that beautiful air mass. I'm really excited about this in Columbia, South Carolina. Even if we just get to 65 degrees, I think that will be phenomenal. But this is a beautiful air mass this time of the year. It's just amazing. I'm really looking forward to this. I've gotten really excited about it. But just a nice looking air mass. These are potential low temperatures. Just yeah, it's gonna make you want to pull out all your fall stuff. I know I already got a fall candle already lit right here, guys. I'm trying to get this cold front in here. It says maple pecan or pecan. Some people say it different. But definitely looking forward to this air mass, guys. But that's all I got. You folks have a wonderful day. God bless all y'all, and I'll talk to you again soon.